Hello and welcome to my brand new channel. I am a mama to two wonderful little boys with a third one on the way, and I love to cook and try new recipes when I have the time to do so. I decided to kick off this channel with a cooking series titled De la Casa De Mi Madre. This series is dedicated to the wonderful, delicious meals that my nanny and my mother make. Wonderful Mexican food that I want to share with the world. So to start this series, I decided to start with a simple recipe, homemade flour tortillas. Now, if you've never tried a homemade tortilla, you are missing out. Store-bought ones just don't cut it. And they're so easy to make. It's literally 5 ingredients, including water. So what you'll need for this is flour, salt, baking powder, butter, and water. So simple. So if you want to learn how to make homemade tortillas, follow along with me. Okay, for this recipe, you're going to need 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons salt, 1 teaspoon baking powder, 1/3 of a cup room temperature softened butter. I use salted butter. You can use unsalted, although I would say you'll want to probably adjust your salt amount according to taste if you use unsalted butter. I've also tried using other kinds of oils like coconut oil. I personally just love butter. It gives it such a rich, buttery taste that I love. So I love using butter, and that's what I use to do it. So you're gonna mix those together, and you're going to just mix it like this with your hands. Get that butter incorporated in nicely. And then once you've done that, and it's mixed nicely, you're going to add in the cup of hot water. 1 cup of hot. You don't want it boiling hot, you don't want it to burn your hand, but warm to hot water. And you're going to pour that in slowly and be mixing as you pour it in. If you need slightly more water, slightly less, I would pour in a little bit less, mix it. You want the dough to start off, it's going to start off with a sticky texture, consistency, but then you want it to get to where it's not sticking to your fingers. So I actually think I'm going to stop there. I had just a teeny bit of water left at the bottom, but I'm going to stop there. That's about the consistency that I wanted. So I'm going to scrape the bottom of this bowl until I get everything. And then I'm going to transfer it to the counter and continue kneading until the dough doesn't stick to my fingers anymore. If you do accidentally put a little bit too much water, you can always just add a little bit of flour to help get it to the consistency that you need it to be at. But don't do that until you've kneaded it out for a while, because kneading it out will definitely get it to where you want it to be. Okay, when it's at the consistency where you want it, where it's no longer sticking to your fingers, you're just going to form a nice dough ball. Tuck the corners under like this and sit it down. You're going to then form little balls out of this dough ball. So I like mine to be, if you want bigger tortillas, you're going to do bigger dough balls. If you want smaller ones, you're going to do smaller. So I typically, out of this amount, I'll make 11 to 12 dough balls. That's about the amount of tortillas that I want to make. And I don't like to make mine super, super big. You know, if you're going to do large burritos or something, you may want to do bigger sizes, but I tend to make mine a little bit smaller. So you're just going to create the size dough ball that you want. And just keep tucking the corners under like this as you are creating the dough balls. So mine actually made a little bit more. I'm just gonna finish this off and let this be a final one. So this is my 13th. It's a little bit large, but that's okay. We'll have one big tortilla there at the end. Once you've created all your dough balls, you're then gonna take some sort of oil. I like to continue to use butter. You could use another kind of oil. You could use lard, you could use coconut oil, canola oil if you wanted, but I prefer butter. Get a little bit of butter on your palm like this, and you're just going to roll your dough ball in that butter till it's nicely coated. Okay, once you have finished doing that, you're gonna take a nice towel and you are just going to cover those dough balls for about 15 minutes and let them sit. After they've sat for 15 minutes, we'll come back and we will continue. Okay, so it's been 15 minutes. For this next step, you're just gonna take your towel off. You have all of your dough balls formed here. And I'm actually just gonna move them back a little bit so I have room to roll out my tortillas. Okay, you wanna flour the surface that you're rolling the tortillas on. You may hear my boys in the background. They are up from their nap, so they may be making some noise as I do this video. So flour the surface. You wanna put a little bit of flour in a bowl, and you are going to take your first tortilla and you are going to press it into the flour and coat both sides. So press one side, flip it over, press the other side until it's got a good amount of flour on it, and then you want to pat the excess flour off and thin the tortilla down just a little bit. You're then going to transfer it to your surface, get your rolling pin, and you are just going to roll forward and backward, and then you're going to flip it the other way. Roll forward and backward. Now this is the step of making tortillas that may take some practice. It's important to remember that they don't have to be perfectly round. My tortillas are not perfectly round, and that's okay as long as they taste good and there's no holes in them, which sometimes I even get holes in them. That's okay too. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. So you just keep going and pressing forward and backward to stretch that tortilla out. And if it starts to lose some of the flour or get a little too sticky, all you need to do is coat it with a little bit of flour here. As you can see, my tortillas are not perfectly round, and that is okay. Now this next step is something that I saw my nanny and my mom do growing up, and I've never been able to master it. So this next step of flipping the tortilla back and forth in your hands, what it helps to do is stretch the tortilla out, get rid of excess flour. I've just never really been super good at it. I end up making holes in the tortilla, and so I do it a little bit, but what I end up doing is more like pizza dough style, where I kind of stretch it out this way. And I might go back and forth just to get rid of excess flour, but then I'll go back to stretching it. And it is important to stretch it out. That way it cooks a little bit more evenly so that the center of it's not too doughy. So if you stretch it out like this a bit, it'll help with that. Plus, as I said before, getting rid of any excess flour on it. So I'll kind of flip it around, stretch the sides out like this, just to help flatten it out the way that I want it to. And I'm going to do one more roll the other way. And then we are going to move it over to our comal to cook. Okay, we are over at the comal. I have already preheated it. I put it on medium-high until it gets nice and hot on top, and it is ready to cook. I picked up this comal, I think at Walmart. Walmart, Target will have them. Amazon will have some. So you can find the larger sizes or the smaller sizes depending on the size tortilla that you want to make. All right, from there we're just going to put our tortilla right on. I want to get it as close to the edge as possible and let it start cooking. I like to use a spatula to help pat it down so it cooks evenly. And that edge is a little bit over, so I'm going to center it a bit more. You'll see it start to bubble up like that. That's good. And I just like I said, I like to pat it so it bubbles evenly. You don't want it to burn, so right about there, you're just going to take your spatula underneath, flip it over. Same thing on the other side, just kind of pat it so it cooks evenly. And there we have our first homemade tortilla, all done. All right, we are going to move on to our next tortilla. So we are going to flour the surface again, grab another tortilla, pat it down on one side and the other, pat out the excess flour, flatten it so it's a nice circle, and then begin rolling with the rolling pin forward and backward, and flip it. Forward and backward. And then this next step, you just take it like this, gets rid of that excess flour, helps stretch the tortilla out. And just tug slightly as you turn it like this. Okay, back at the comal, just pat it, make sure all the corners are down. You'll start to see the bubbling. And flip it. I'd say maybe 5 to 10 seconds per side, not very long. And you continue this with all of your tortillas, and you have fresh homemade tortillas that are wonderful, delicious, and everyone in the family will love them. Of course, my favorite way to eat a homemade tortilla is simply to put butter on it, roll it up, and eat it fresh off the comal. It's my favorite. And as you can hear my boys whining, they also love it too, and they're wanting some. So I'm gonna share the love and enjoy my tortillas. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos like this, please like it and subscribe to my channel. Thanks, and see you next time.